Gen Con, Gen Con, Gen Con, Gen can't? Yeah, no, definitely can't. But let's talk about all the news that came out of Gen Con, right? Let's break down some of the announcements, some of my thoughts, some of my interests, and just some of the stuff you need to know. A special hotness that you need to know about. Because, frankly speaking, if you're like most people, you weren't there. And not going to get into that. But let's talk about at least the announcements that came out of this past weekend, regardless whether or not you were present physically, online, or just ignoring it altogether, you know. You got stuff going on. You live your life too. So let's take a look. Let's see what's interesting out there. And first, though, let's talk about just an interesting topic here. I'm going to get you side tangent because this is directly related to convention. Now, Gen Con specifically, but it happens at Essen, happens at Origins, happens to all these conventions. How do you feel about games that are released at these conventions that specifically you have either pre-ordered online or you have crowdfunded? Because right now at Gen Con, both of those happened. You know, if you're, semi-active on social media, you see this all the time. I believe there were several kickstarted games that are available there from not so small publishers that have copies. They have copies that have not gotten yet to a significant portion, any of the backers. And you see this year in and year out, right? This is not a new thing. I'm not going to say that, these guys are the sole culprits. But how do you feel about that? I mean, and I know I've been a part of a couple of crowdfunding projects where they've actually sent out an update saying, hey, are you okay with us selling this early here, knowing that X, Y, and Z is the situation? Me personally, I don't really care. I don't. Because especially most of the time, it's more expensive there. And they will flat out say, usually it's more expensive. These guys are going to get it slightly sooner, and so be it. Or they're not going to get exactly what you guys got in terms of exclusives or bundle deal. Now, that's true for crowdfunding. How do you feel about pre-orders at retail? I am going to name a name here because I just saw a post before filming this of FFG's Unfathomable, the Cthulhu BSG reskin, that they have copies there. There's one distributor that has a bunch of copies there. And I don't even know if it actually has a street date yet. So, if you were one of those pre-orders on like Miniature Market or Card House or Game Nerds, pick your site. I like them all equally in some respects. But if you had that pre-order and you were going, okay, well, I might not have this till November, December. Who knows? Street date in the US right now. How would you feel about that? Now, I don't know the price on that side of things. There was no comment on the price of what they were selling it for, but I don't know. It's an interesting, thought-provoking conversation because there's no exclusives, right? And I would imagine you're going to pay more just by convention nature in the first place. So are you okay with, in that case, of them paying more, getting it sooner? I don't know. It's an interesting concept. It's an interesting topic. I thought I'd bring it up at least at the beginning of the video to make you think a little bit from that side of things. Now, you can just listen. Now we're into the passive section. I'll ramble about specific stuff. Let's do this. Look, since I was just talking about FFG, let's just go to their big in-flight report. I never quite understood that term. Anyway, so let's take a look at sort of what they've announced. Now, one, you can see in the upper right-hand corner here, Nebula for Marvel Champions is out. So if you're a Marvel Champions person, Nebula, something different, something intriguing, great. Not really, Gen Con, but Gen Con adjacent, literally and metaphorically speaking. The big announcement was that they are wrapping up an expansion for Legends of the Dark of Descent. And it's called The Ghosts of Greyhaven. A side story. Now, this is interesting. Not like add on like at the end, but you add it into your Act 1. Now, they say you can stand alone as well, but they also make it clear that this Act 2, as I believe this is rumored and supposed to be sort of a 3-act game, is still a ways off. So the question is, obviously this has been in development for a while. If this is going to come out soonish, you know, let's say first third of 2022. That'd be my guess. Be interesting to see what this adds. Because with some of their other products, like Lord of the Rings, the Middle-earth one with the app, that people thought that the expansion added a bit more. And so is this going to be the same? How different is this going to be? What is this going to add? That's the biggest question when it comes to this. So that was the first thing that they sort of announced. The next is Keyforge. I mean, if you didn't hear it, Keyforge is on hiatus. They have an algorithm that's all messed up. I don't know the extent of what that actually means, but they say here, you know, they're talking about the 6th iteration, the Winds of Exchange. Take for what you will from that. The basic gist is, hey, well, here's a little snippet, but we kind of have it on hiatus because we can't do a whole lot. So then we get into more of the flagships. We get into more of the Arkham Horror LCG. And if you had polled me before looking at this page, I would have said that Arkham Horror had been out for like 10 years. Arkham Horror's only been out for 5 years, folks. That's crazy. That's crazy to me. It feels like a lot longer. Now, they talk about 2 big announcements here. One slightly larger than the other, I would venture. You can let me know what you think. Now, obviously, they do like a standalone scenario. This is the Machinations Through Time. Okay, great. Sounds great. Time travel, Arkham Horror. Great combination there. No arguments, no issues there. Compatible with multiplayer mode. Okay, great. Just like a lot of the other standalone scenarios. First quarter 2022. Great. This is the bigger one, though. And that's why I'm saving it. And that's why I said it. The repackaging of these legacy cycles. And if you think that this is going to be the only one, no. This is clearly where they're going with the product line. And this is clearly meant to prevent some of the piecemealing. Say what you will, and this is a blessing or a curse, depending on how you want to look at it. I think a lot of people are going to look at this at face value and say, this is great, this is great, this is great, this is great. Because then, you know, you're not missing a chapter pack if it's just out of print or you just can't find it, right? And overall, the price is slightly less. But the other thing you have to realize is then you can't just buy a chapter pack. You're going in for like $50 every time, right? So that's the issue. It solves some, it creates others. You're able to get it all, but you're going to be spending more. Your foot in the door is going to cost you more from that side of things. And again, first quarter of 2022. I mean, and they even compare it to the Edge of the Earth expansions, where all player stuff is on one side, all the bad guy stuff, all the campaign stuff is in the other. I mean, the concept is great, but it comes with baggage. Now, here's the other thing. Now, this has been going 10 years. Lord of the Rings, the card game. Again, they are changing their whole business model. You have to wonder if, I mean, this is heavy top-down stuff, folks. They're changing the business model of both of their flagship games right now. So you wonder if there's something more to that, but or are you just reading too much into it? A new core, again, sort of like what they're doing with Arkham Horror. If you already own a core set, don't worry, you can print off the cards. Because that is exactly what people want to do, right? I have a collection that's worth a couple $100, and you know what? You're going to put a new little snippets in this core. Oh, you know what I'd really love to do is just print off a few things and throw them in a sleeve. No. But they're doing it like they say. They're going to do it with most, not all, of the cycles as they're doing with Arkham Horror. With you have a player expansion and a campaign expansion. But they're looking out for you. That's what they say. They're looking out for you as the player. So it's all okay. It's all okay. Again, here's your solo scenario pack. There you go. Again, quarter 1, 2022. A little bit of Marvel Champions is starting to become sort of their third spoke, their third pillar, obviously in the LCG model, but, you know, of the company itself, because if you've been following along at all with a lot of their other lines, they've sort of been hacked and slashed and slowly killed off a lot of the other stuff. I'm looking at you, most of the Star Wars products. So, I mean, you're getting Marvel. And someone someone on Reddit, I think maybe like a year ago or so, leaked out like just a ton of the releases that were planned, and so far they've been relatively accurate, including and preceding and post Mad Titan's Shadow Wave. And so this is just everything in there. I believe Valkyrie is coming up soon, but now this is the coolest thing here because this looks freaking sweet. Sinister motives, Spider-Verse themed, Ghost Spider, Miles Morales. That looks really cool because that's sort of the big thing that's sort of been under the radar that we've seen with some of the other Marvel properties really already expand into. And the rumor is that probably, after this, people were pondering because like a year or two ago, they said X-Men is on the line, but it's like significantly off. Well, maybe we'll see the X-Men-ish by maybe like the end of 2022. That'd be, a pipe dream, if you will. Then we get into sort of the classics. We get into Imperium of the Twilight nature. Now, different than what you're thinking of, I actually saw this promoted by CMON first. Graphic novels in cooperation with CMON. So, along their graphic novel, Kickstarter that they did a year or two ago, right? With a little bit of exclusives for each of those games. I don't know if there's any gameplay. It doesn't say there's any gameplay with this, but just, some graphic novels. Not only in the Twilight, but then also in the Android universe. So, there you go. Again, probably the other one that people are hyped about, I mentioned the Star Wars getting killed off. People thought Outer Rim was going to be potentially among those cuts. Well, apparently not, because we have some unfinished business, literally speaking, as the title of the expansion for the Star Wars Outer Rim. Again, more of a pick up and deliver-esque game. Like, I love the Star Wars IP, but the mechanisms in this did nothing for me in terms of interest. And I think this is going to hopefully address most of the issues that people had with the first game concerns. I want to compare it to the other big Star Wars out there right now is what Rise of the Rebellion did for Star Wars Rebellion. That's how I view this. Now, I could be wrong, but if it does, it's enough to maybe entice me back. So that is the big stuff from FFG. The next other big splash that I saw so far, Azul. In case you don't have enough Azul, now you can have a fourth copy in your collection. They're going the pandemic route. And this is Queen's Garden. They say this is reckoning back to the second one, the Glass of Sintra, which arguably is my least favorite of the three. So depending on how you feel about that, you may be more excited or less excited. But just by the cover art, if you look carefully here, different iconography on the tiles rather than sheer color alone, which already sets it apart distinctly from the other three. Now, the problem is we don't have a whole lot of information. This blown up picture from Board Game Geek may offer a few more insights. And again, you can see sort of the Azul Tower over there. And then you've got this selection in the middle that you're going to be taking. But not only does it look like you're going to be taking tiles, it looks like you're going to be taking garden pieces in the form of these 7 hexes that are all together. And so you're going to be placing them in one of the various spots around your board as well. So not only are you going to have one layer of management, you're going to have a second layer of tiles on top of that. And on top of that, you have the symbols and the colors of the tiles. So this one has the potential to be a little bit deeper and a little bit more complex just by the sheer surface comparisons, literally and metaphorically speaking, of this picture. And honestly, that's a little exciting because Azul has kind of fallen off my radar, to be honest with you. I like it. I have 2 copies of it in my collection. Actually, no, I have 1 copy of Azul, just Azul in my collection, because I felt like it played out very much the same many times. And so I just wasn't as engaged with it as several of the other abstracts that I have been interested in the past. And so if this can improve that, sign me back up. But also color me waiting for reviews before I'm going to pre-order something like this as well. Just knowing how, I have felt about them in the past. And for your information, it is Summer Pavilion, Regular, and Sintra in the order of best to worst, in my opinion. And I know that's slightly controversial, but I think most of you will probably agree with me, right? Right. So where is Queen's Garden going to fall on that side of things? I'm interested to see. I'm going to keep a close watch on it regardless. So now we get into a little bit more of uncharted territory. Again, literally and metaphorically speaking. I guess that's the phrase for this video. And this is GameTrayz. And they say more than just storage because they're doing a game. And this game is Forsaken, coming to Kickstarter sometime in 2022. And you can read here, it's a narrative adventure game. You want to leave your mark on this post-apocalyptic world. Moving around, interacting, different features in the map, triggering events and encounters that can permanently change the game. These changes affect your character, your goals personally for your own character, or the shared stories between all the characters. So, again, gonna be really interesting to see what this actually looks like. And is it gonna be as tightly packaged as the trays themselves? I mean, if you hop over to the Board Game Geek page here, there's nothing. There's nothing there, but they make it very clear that they are going sandbox. They use the term sandbox right there, folks. I'll scroll it up so my face doesn't cover it. Sandbox adventure game. So right away, I mean, this is going to be ambitious. And I know a lot of you out there have similar taste to me, so when you hear the word sandbox adventure, lasting effects, you guys are going to be a little bit piqued. So that's why I wanted to bring it up to your attention. So there you go. What is it going to entail? I'm sure we're going to get some more stuff leaked out. It's 1 to 4 players. So again, sweet spot for a lot of you. We'll wait and see. Next up, we have an announcement from Funko Games. They are getting into, in case it's not clear, the legacy version of Jurassic World in summer of 2022. And so it'll be really interesting to see what this actually looks like, right? Everyone's familiar with legacy games by now, right? Betrayal, Pandemic, Risk, everything under the sun like that. So what does this look like? Now it says it plays it from, Jurassic World up until like modern, like past that. And how are you going to do that with dinosaurs? Is that going to be like I think what people were initially thinking like Dinosaur Island was going to be, right? This element of creating dinosaurs, mutating them, combining them, making new hybrids. I mean, my kids have the Jurassic World game right now on their iPads. And, you can make all sorts of ungodly hybrids between these dinosaurs. And unlike this, hopefully, that game is a gotcha, sort of loot box game. So, I mean, what are we going to see? I have absolutely no idea how you're going to incorporate that unless you're going to have, like they do in the game, like where you've got Gen 1, Gen 2, Generation 3, sort of dinosaurs. And in that game, you have like commons, rares, super rares, legendaries, and hybrids. So I'm not sure if this is going to be sort of the same thing. Obviously, you can't do it in terms of that, but what sort of interaction is there going to be? Is it just going to be like creating your own park? I mean, I'm struggling to find another way of incorporating it, but clearly they've got it. So, I mean, 6 months from now, we'll probably know a lot more. But, I mean, it's an IP to watch for sure. Is it going to be what people want, though? Because, some of the Funko games are a bit lighter. And how is this going to compare? So, again, interesting topic. Now, let's talk about a few other things that have sort of trickled out from various publishers. Obviously, pictured here is Restoration Games' return to Dark Tower. The battery-driven, computerized version of this 1980s game that is not based on the Stephen King novel, as much as I wish it was. Come on, man. Give me a Stephen King Dark Tower. That would be... Let's not talk about the movie. Let's talk about based on the books. But, I mean, demos were being played there, and the question is just going to be when are people actually going to get it? So, I have no idea on this one, right? Fireball Island was a bit of a mixed bag. It went more for the nostalgia side of things, heavily in terms of versus the gameplay. But this one, I mean, people seem to be really hyped about this one in terms of the actual gameplay and what it's going to be involved with and the leveling up and the customizing of these characters. I have no idea. This is one I could see breaking the bank. Well, it already literally almost did break the bank if you got like the all-in, which was like something like almost $300. But you could also break the bank in the terms of, oh, wow, this is really cool as something unique and different. But I have no idea. And what's the retail side of things going to look like with this? Because I think you were talking triple digits potentially from a retail side of things for something as, we'll say, unique as this. So again, something to have on your radar. It's coming soon. It's going to be on the hotness soon, especially when people start getting it. Now, next up, we have from One More Game Japan is a re-theme, essentially, of a game called Scout, which is a trick-taking game that involves combinations or runs of numbers and how you do them and how you organize them in your hand. I actually picked up a copy and had it imported along with several other Japanese games about like almost, at the beginning of the pandemic. And I don't know, it fell very flat with me, but I feel like I was also playing it wrong looking back at a copy of the rules over the weekend. So this is one that, especially if the availability is going to be broader, I may have to look into. And honestly, this color scheme is a lot more appealing, sort of in a dinosaur world, island-ish sort of way, in a very obtuse sense. So again, something to have on your radar, because a lot of the trick-taking people and the solely card-based heavy players really like this game. It's really well thought of. And so something else to have on your radar if you're of that ilk. Then we have, obviously, and this was a big Kickstarter when it happened, we have Role Player Adventures from Thunderwork Games. I passed on this because there wasn't enough exclusivity, and I rolled the dice, literally and metaphorically speaking, in that sense that I'm going to try and pick it up at retail or buy it off somebody else secondhand. But they had demo copies. Retail, they say, is going to be in November. I believe Australia and the Oceania started already getting their copies. So it's going to be hitting the hotness very, very, very shortly. They had demos, obviously, at Grand Con that you could play through. And I'm excited to see, because I loved the idea of it more so than some of the other adventure-style games in terms of rolling the dice. So it'll be interesting to see what people actually think of it from that sense, too. One last one of note, if this looks familiar in the background from Vienna Connection, the other game next to it, up over here, is Dreadful Circus. Now, I've had this one on my radar as an October release from a retail side of things, and you can see just the color scheme is absolutely beautiful. This is a very special, very different circus building set collection type game where all the cards that you're getting give you different end game scoring conditions along the way that are finally used at, well, the end of the game. So you can see here a little bit of what the blown up pictures look like, and this just looks cool. This just looks cool. Now, is it going to hold up? Is it going to be better than the closest comparison that I can think of off the top of my head with multi-colors set collection of Red Rising, which had its pros and also had its significant detractors? I don't know, but Portal Games has done a pretty good job recently, so I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to keep my eyes pretty closely peeled on this one when it hits shelves and what the early reaction is, because I could see this one flying under the radar as sort of a dark horse here at the end of the year. Last but not least, I have some horribly, horribly disappointing, but arguably, for me personally, perhaps the biggest news that has sort of broken to me again on this weekend. This is a copy of one of the chats from Level 99 Discord. And unfortunately, what we're talking about here is with Seventh Cross, essentially kind of confirming that they have canceled it. So, man, so many of us have had this game on the radar of the next dungeon crawler open world sandbox with an amazing art, theme, lore, Castlevania-esque all rolled into one. And so if this is actually the case, that it's dead and we may see it maybe sometime down the line in another form, I mean, it's good to know, but I'll be honest with you, it's been my number one most hyped game for probably a year and a half. The one I, right up, at least in the top 3. So to hear this and to officially hear it, still breaks my heart a little bit from that side of things. Now, obviously, they have the other big unannounced project that has yet to be named that is on their development track. If you go to their webpage or their blog updates, is called The Crow. So no details are out yet on what that is. And we also have Exceed Season 6 coming sometime, I would guess, in the next 6 months or so. So, I mean, it's not like they're not doing anything. There's going to be more stuff. They're finishing off a few of the Kickstarter campaigns. So, I mean, there's stuff coming. It's just, man, I'm a little down from this. The pros and cons of being subscribed to some pages on Board Game Geek. So there you go. So that's it. Gen Con news roundup, a little bit of everything. The most notable stuff from my side of things. I'm sure there's stuff I missed. I'm sure there's stuff that I didn't cover that you guys are, aware of that I missed. But let me know in the comment section. Let me know whether or not this was useful, whether or not this was helpful for those of you, especially like myself, who didn't go and just kind of get smatterings here and there. One solid consolidated source. So there you go. As always, it's been a blast. Have a great Tuesday. Have a great week. I'll see you guys around. Thanks for clicking. Thanks for subscribing. Stay classy out there. Oh, as a side note, I don't know how the heck we blew up. I blew up. I clicked on the night of me filming this on Sunday night. All of a sudden, my subscriber count just went up by like a couple hundred. So I have no idea what's going on. But for all of you that are new, thank you. Tune in. Tons of fun where that's come from. So let's go. Let's do this. Now, 5K by the end of the year. We're going to get there. Now, can we hit more? Let's find out. See you around.